So today we're going to look at different methods for investigating fraudulent cryptocurrency or using Bitcoin or other crypto platforms as fraud schemes. And we'll look at some of the tools that can be used to do that. But the first question is, why is it necessary to do these investigations? Well, you may have seen in the news, here's a couple examples where a cryptocurrency investment scheme that was offered to investors as a way to make money. This one was a platform called Virtual Capital. Allegedly, he told clients he developed an algorithm, and this is always what any fraud scheme is based around, some type of algorithm or secret mathematical way of making money. Even Bernie Madoff had some algorithm for stock market investments. And this one was an algorithm called Tenjin to monitor cryptocurrency exchanges and seize on price fluctuations. In most cases, these Ponzi schemes make up a really good story about why their system works and makes money, but usually all they're doing is just taking investors' funds. And this particular fund claimed that they returned 500% return on investment. The scammer was paying $23,000 a month for an apartment in a luxury high-rise in Manhattan. Another similar scam, this is the Department of Justice, announced that there was a crypto fund, again, it's always a investment fund, took in $5 million from investors and said that he had some special magic investment scheme called coin signals. He was a supposed trader, and he solicited funds for various investments, but in reality that it was a Ponzi scheme. So this is very common, and we've talked about scams before. We don't want to get too much into it, but cryptocurrency is a very popular way to ask for investments from consumers, because you can promise the world. You can promise anything with crypto, especially since, just within the last 24 hours, Bitcoin hit $50,000. When people see that in the news, they want to get in on it. The thing is, you don't need to have any algorithm or secret special trading platform to buy cryptocurrency. You can buy it through PayPal. You can buy it through some banks. You can buy it directly through some platforms. The money comes from the speculation and the risk and basically the bet that it's going to go up. You don't need any kind of special trading platforms to make money with cryptocurrency if it goes up. So these Ponzi schemes use the opaque nature of Bitcoin and made up algorithms to take your money. So what do you do if you're a victim, or what do you do if you're investigating a crypto scam? Well, here's one of the tools. It's called chain analysis, and it has various products, as you can see here. This one's called KYT. It monitors transactions. It's a tool that investigators can use to use an API and an interface to comply with regulations by monitoring crypto transactions. And as an investigator, you can do the same thing. And here's an example of what the platform might look like, what the alerts are for different transactions. They also have a product called Reactor, which traces the flow of cryptocurrency transactions. Okay, and it's used to combat criminal activity. That's what this is for. And it shows, like, here's where the different coin exchanges and the different flow of crypto is. So it's a way that an investigator can track cryptocurrency payments, whether it's Bitcoin or other platforms. And a lot of these Ponzi schemes are using cryptocurrency as the represented method of investment. Sometimes it's just the way that they take payments. Sometimes it's something going on behind the scenes, but there are tools, and this is one example of a tool that investigators can use to bust up and find these assets. Now, what can a consumer or victim do on their own? Well, there's another really good article in the New Yorker about how private eyes are everywhere. Private investigators is ubiquitous. And the reason for it is private investigators are a licensed industry in most states. You have to have a certain license and experience and training and pass an exam to become a licensed private investigator. But much of the work that investigators do, a consumer or an interested person can do yourself. There's no special access or special rights or special authority that an investigator has that a private consumer doesn't have. The only thing that an investigator is allowed to do is offer those services for a fee to a third party. If you are a victim of a cryptocurrency scam or another Ponzi scheme, you can do a lot of investigating yourself. Most of the cost and expense that goes into an investigation is the time. So if an investigation takes, 35 or 38 hours of investigators' time to research, analyze, forensics, all those things, in theory, a person could do it themselves. Now, you may not have the knowledge, but there's plenty of YouTube videos like this one and instruction manuals that you could use. Now, you may have to sign up for tools like chain analysis or other tools and pay the money for those if you're going to use a third-party tool. But you could do the investigation yourself. And this article in the New Yorker talks about what are the things that people do. Variety of things: tracking missing people, tailing cheating spouses, recovering assets, job applicants. Now, if you're doing this for another person or a client, you have to have a license. They don't let you do this for yourself. In the same way, you might have to have a license to be a barber, right? Not that those two are equal, but it doesn't mean you can't cut your own hair. You just can't open up a store and be a barbershop unless you have a license. Investigator license is a little more complex. You have to have usually insurance, bonding, verification that you're knowledgeable in the industry. But if you want to do some of this yourself, there's tools where you can do these types of things. And you'll find in a lot of our videos, we've talked about how to learn some of these techniques and do it for yourself. You don't want to offer this for a third party because now you're breaking the law. But this article in the New Yorker is very good and talks about the things that you can do that you wouldn't be able to do before because of the internet allows access to records and data, even something as simple as real estate records. A lot of the investigation for assets, you're searching county clerk office records, court records, registrar of deeds. And if you're doing a search, let's say back in the 1980s, and you're looking for records in another state, well, the only way those records were available is if you walked into the courthouse, pulled deed books off the shelf, and looked at those legal documents, looked at those court filings. Well, nowadays, it's all online, right? You can look for those. It still may take many hours of research. It's not a magic push a button and the answer comes on your screen, but at least you can access the documents that are needed to come up with that answer. So if you're an amateur investigator and you want to do some work for your own type of case, now the resources and the records are available much more easily from afar. Even things like vehicle records, banking records, financial records, closing statements, settlement statements, other types of asset searches you can access now without having to go in person to where those sources are. In most cases, the cost is very minimal. You may be able to pay a couple dollars for copies of documents from a courthouse. Now, again, it's still going to take the same amount of time to do the investigation as a professional might take. In fact, it might take a little longer. If a professional investigation might be 25 or 30 man hours worth of labor, reading documents, researching records, it might take you maybe 10 or 20% more because you don't do this all the time. You may not be as efficient at doing it. But if you have the time and you have nothing better to do and you want to save a little bit of money, you can actually do some of this yourself. And you can look at some of our instructional videos. If you would like more personalized assistance, you can use our teleclient.com. You'll see the link on the top of the video for consultations. But many investigations for consumers, and again, as long as you're not needing this for legal purposes that you have to rely on the results being 100% accurate and don't need legal advice, there's certain things you can do. Remember, private investigators are not attorneys. We can't represent you in court. We can't give you legal advice like an attorney would. But what we can do is tell you what we do for attorneys, what a lot of times attorneys will do with the records. And though that may or may not apply exactly in your case, but it gives you an idea of what to do next with records. If you get a bunch of bank records and you find a bank account for somebody who owes you money, here's what you might be able to do with some of those records. And if for some reason you have a court case and you're working with an attorney, you may be able to verify some of your records that the attorney can use. So again, if you're using this for a legal purposes, a divorce case, a litigation, some criminal case, criminal defense, get good legal advice from an attorney of what information you would need and how you would use it. The other thing an investigator that's licensed can sometimes do is to give your attorney some suggestions on how cases like this have gone in the past. We don't want to do their job for them, but sometimes we can suggest things like a writ of garnishment or other techniques that have been used by prior clients or other attorneys that they may not be as familiar with because they don't do that kind of a case on a regular basis where a licensed investigator may do that. So there's some good tools out there. Remember, if somebody's offering to do an investment for you, make sure it's not a Ponzi scheme. Make sure you know exactly where your money's going, and make sure that you have to do an investment with them. Cryptocurrency, you can buy on the street. Some convenience stores sell cryptocurrency, sell Bitcoin now. So you don't have to go through some shady online website that you don't know what they're doing with your money to purchase cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, or other platforms. And the reason why Bitcoin is such a big deal is because all the scammers that used to be out there taking people's money for Ponzi schemes used to do things like real estate investment or stock market investment. Well, now it's all going to Bitcoin. All the scams are in Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that all Bitcoin investments are scams. It just means all of the new scams that are out there that we see are almost always a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency scam because the fraudsters are preying on the greed of people who want to make a lot of money and using Bitcoin to do it. If you have any questions, you can email our help desk, help@activeintel.com, or you can click our client consultation link, which is teleclient.com. You see on the top of the video, and we'd be glad to help.